In the cold streets of New York, Jack Carter walked like a man who had worn the weight of years on his shoulders. His face carried the marks of time, his eyes were tired, but deep inside, he still held on to a sliver of hope. He hadn't always been homeless. Once, he was a construction worker with a wife, a son, and a warm home. But life could be cruel. After a workplace accident left him injured, he found himself uninsured and without compensation. Medical debt piled up, and soon he lost his house. His wife and son drifted away, and the streets became his new home. That night, the cold was relentless. Winter's icy breath cut through his worn-out coat. He was starving, and his body trembled from exhaustion. No matter how much he fought, he knew he wouldn't survive another night like this. Reaching into his pocket, he found only a few coins, not even enough for a bowl of soup. Desperation led him to a small corner store. The warm scent of bread and coffee filled the air as he stepped inside. Without thinking, he grabbed a loaf of bread and rushed toward the door, leaving his last few coins on the counter, but the alarm went off. Minutes later, sirens blared, and police officers caught up with him around the corner. "It was just a loaf of bread," Jack muttered. But to the law, it was still a crime. He was arrested and taken into custody, set to appear in court the next day. The courtroom was silent and cold. The judge, a seasoned man with years of experience, listened as the prosecutor laid out the case. "Your Honor, the defendant has been arrested multiple times for petty theft," the prosecutor argued. "This is not his first offense." Jack stood straight, his voice steady but weary when given the chance to speak. "Your Honor, I won't lie to you. Yes, I stole that bread. But it wasn't out of greed or selfishness. It was survival. I was starving. This morning I woke up thinking I might not live to see tomorrow, that I'd be found frozen on a street corner, just like so many others who have nowhere to go." The courtroom remained silent. Jack continued. "I wasn't always like this. I had a job, a family, a future. But one accident changed everything. I lost my ability to work, I lost my home, and I lost my dignity. Nobody hires a man like me. The shelters are overcrowded, and the system doesn't catch you when you fall. It lets you hit the ground." The prosecutor crossed his arms. "That still doesn't justify breaking the law." Jack sighed and nodded. "You're right. But let me ask you this. If a man has to steal a loaf of bread to survive, is the problem really him? Or is it the society that left him with no other choice?" A murmur spread through the courtroom. The judge leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. Over the years, he had seen countless criminals, but Jack's eyes didn't hold guilt, only desperation. The judge finally raised his gavel. "Jack Carter, the law's clear. You committed a crime. However," he paused, scanning the room, "the court sentences you not to jail time but to community service at a local homeless shelter. You will have food, a warm bed, and in return, you will help others like yourself. People who need guidance, people who need hope." Jack's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Your Honor." The judge studied him for a moment and added, "This is your second chance, Jack." "There won't be a third." Jack bowed his head in gratitude. As he stepped out of the courtroom, a journalist was waiting for him at the door. "Mr. Carter, I'd like to share your story. People need to hear this." Jack hesitated, then exhaled deeply. For the first time in years, someone was listening. And maybe, just maybe, his voice could make a difference. He closed his eyes, breathed in the cold New York air, and smiled. It was the first step toward a new beginning. Lessons from the story. Desperation can drive people to make choices they never imagined. But every mistake can be turned into an opportunity. Society shouldn't ignore those who have fallen. It should offer them a way back up. Justice isn't just about punishment, it's about understanding and rehabilitation. If someone has to steal food to survive, the real failure lies in the system that let them reach that point. Sometimes the smallest moments can lead to the biggest changes.